Hello, folks. Back with more ancient cosmography, and like this is the famous scene at Lascaux in the Lascaux caves of France. 20 to 30,000-year-old cave painting. Basically, the most famous cave painting, and so I was thinking that this part of it, like the bison is being, speared. And, well, in this part, I didn't zoom in the spear, but you can see it there. It's, they kind of zoom in on some of the smaller parts, like the head, the tail, these legs, other than this big leg of Cape York. And they zoom in on the spear, but I didn't have room to do that. But you can kind of see it coming out at that angle right there at that spot. And then it has all these, all his guts like coming out. So I think his guts are like the light blue parts around here. So yeah, here's the spearhead, and here's his guts like falling out of there. And so I think that it may actually relate to something in the ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways, like in the section about Australia. This, because the Book of Two Ways is the ancient map of the planet, so each section of it is a different part of the Earth. And in the Australian section of it, it says, this is the sealed place which is in the midst of darkness. Flame is around it, containing this effluvium of Osiris. It was placed in Rosatau. So Rosatau, I think, is the Pacific Ocean, which I think includes the ocean around Australia. It has been concealed since it fell from him. It is what descended from him upon the land of sand. That which has been placed in Rosatau is what exists under him. As for any person who is seen there alive, he can never perish, since he knows the spell for passing by the squatters, the keepers of the gates. And I think they might be called squatters because in this book, like most of the islands around there are shown as zoomorphic avatars with squatting legs, or like bent legs. Having descended, let's see. This is the speech which is in the midst of darkness. Flame is around it, containing this effluvium of Osiris. So I'm just wondering if the effluvium of Osiris relates to these areas of like the sealed place. Might actually be Van Diemen Gulf right here, because it's kind of sealed off with the Tiwi Islands and by Cobourg Peninsula, and it kind of has the guts of Osiris. Like, it's like the land, when the land is when the water is so shallow and the land is so close to the surface, it can sometimes release a lot of like oxygen and minerals and stuff into the water, which makes the water like really rich with like fish and different minerals and stuff. So I don't know. I'm thinking there's at least a chance that this ancient, concept of the guts of this bison, which may also relate to the part here, that the idea that he's fighting against Papua, and maybe he bit Papua, so there's Papua's blood under his chin, and then his own blood is falling out of his guts or whatever. So yeah, let me see. Rosatau is the corruption of Osiris. As for any person who is there, he sees Osiris every day. Breath is in his nose. He can never die, since he knows the spell for passing it. Rosatau is hidden since he fell therein. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that relates to this, but certainly it's similar in the sense that it's the same section of the planet and that it relates to some sort of innards coming out, bodily innards, effluvium, efflux, and so this is a zoom in on the face of Australia, of the bison, with this light blue water in that bay. And so these are like things about efflux, because in the other version it translates as the efflux of Osiris. So this says efflux definition, blood, efflux, something that is given off in or as if in a stream, the red blood cell sodium ion efflux. And this one says the flowing out of a particular substance or particle, the same active efflux of sodium for the cytoplasm to the external medium, material that is flowing out. Effluxion. So anyway, so I think that can relate to the guts of the bison and the efflux of Osiris, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it does seem to be an important part of the map of the Book of Two Ways. And it does seem to be in that region. And so yeah, it's like all around this area we have all these light blue bays that have this same type of geography, topography, whatever. And these are just the images of the Hierakonpolis Tomb 100 map, which is one of the maps that I learned this type of system from, where it shows basically, this one basically shows the whole planet. Has Africa here, Asia here, probably Europe up here, has Britain right here, Britain and Ireland there, Madeira, or Shetland, the Faroes, the Azores, Madeira, and then over here is like the Bahamas. So this is America right here. South America, the little Central American Isthmus, and like the big Yucatan area, and then the skinny area around like, in the Gulf of Mexico, and then Florida when it was wider, Baja California here, and then this part here is very faded, but this is still the mainland. This is basically, Mexico and the US area, and then this kind of bite taken out of the top is Hudson Bay, and then of course Greenland right here, and then Antarctica here, the Antarctic Peninsula, So, you know, that the mainland parts are pretty obvious once you see them. Although you have to flip this because originally this map was flipped, you know, was like flipped like this. And it was like this. So people looked at it and they didn't recognize it because A, it's flipped inside out, and B, it's not oriented north to south the same way that most modern Western maps are. So it just was dismissed as being some kind of like imaginary land. But, you know, I realized that it was flipped antipodally retrograde, which is actually a well-known practice in ancient Egyptian underworld maps, you know, America being the underworld of Egypt, is that they, you know, they even have a name for it. They call it retrograde. It means when it's flipped inside out. So that's a very common practice, or was a very common practice. And so, yeah, once you flip it, it's pretty obvious. But the avatars in it are less obvious sometimes. I mean, some of them are pretty stylized. But once you understand how they work, like once you understand that this is Cuba and this is Haiti and this is, you know, Japan and this is like, etc., Taiwan and stuff, then then you realize like what all the cave paintings are, because there's no difference between these and cave paintings. You know, it's the same style. The only difference is it's in a tomb, so it's a kind of artificial cave as opposed to a natural cave. But other than that, there's no evidence of any change in the concept of these paintings between this and the earlier cave paintings, which suggests to us that the earlier cave paintings were also geographic. And I think there are also celestial aspects to this. So that, you know, there's like a geographical celestial kind of cosmography where each part of the land has its own part of the sky corresponding to it. So yeah, that's why, like, when I see stuff like this, I'm not just like, oh, I saw an island and it kind of looked like a bird. No, it's because I spent years studying this practice, this tradition, and so I can recognize the same system of anthropomorphic and zoomorphic avatars, whether it's 5,500 years old in Egypt here, or whether it's 20,000 years old in France here. It's the same system. And let's see if there's anything else much to show on here.